Thank you so much for those who are joining us. We really appreciate your time. And today we are going to have an amazing session. We have three guests who are going, to share insights, inputs on the topic that we have for the day today. And we say karibuni for those who are not Kenyans. Karibuni sana. So welcome again to yet another empowerment, webinar where we empower amputees or prosthetic users, as we all know, with knowledge on how to live their best lives. And so today we have a topic where our guests are going to dive in and be able to give us insights on the same. But basically what we will be doing on our webinars is that we share different topics that resonates with our community of amputees. And today I'm privileged to host Max, who is an engineer, Dr. Alex, who is also an amputee and based in Uganda, and Dr. Emmanuel Mayakah, who is a professional, he's a prosthetist, but also a professional in the palliative care. So they are going to break down, the topic for our session today is how to properly care for your prosthetic leg in terms of hygiene, adjustment, and longevity. So without further ado, I will give each one of them an opportunity to introduce and tell us, who they are, maybe some information that I've left out, and just a background of how did they get to connect to the world of prosthetics. So I'll start with Emmanuel. Please, you can start by introducing yourself.
Thank you so much, Maggie, for having me in this webinar. So my names are Emmanuel Mayakah Onduso. I am a Kenyan-based associate prosthetist and orthotist, but I also have a strong foundation in what I can call patient-centered rehabilitation and palliative care. Over the past like 15 years, I've worked across public and private hospitals, and I've also had a mix of attending to rural and urban based amputees and clients. And my focus has been to provide prosthetic solutions and also supporting the amputees and their families to navigate through the difficult experiences of having to live with an amputation. And my goal in my practice has always been, just walk alongside the patients and the amputees, not just through the fitting process, but, support them holistically so that they are able to adopt and thrive in their life with the prosthetic limbs and also with the amputation. So thank you so much, Maggie. That's what I can say in a nutshell about myself.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. That is well explained. I'll give the other guest, Max. Kindly, could you just give us, a brief background about you and how did you get also yourself into the world of prosthetics?
Hey, I'm Max. I'm a biomedical engineer. I'm based in Switzerland. And I also work for Circleg for 4 years now. And I'm part of the research and development team. So that means over the last 4 years, I witnessed how the Circleg developed from first early prototypes to a finished product, which is now on the market. So I'm mainly focusing on the technical development at Circleg. So I'm very passionate about connecting technology with prosthetic care, like seeing the technology we develop in daily life. That's what drives me. And thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming through. So the next guest is Dr. Alex. Kindly take the floor.
Hi guys, happy to be here. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dr. Alex Munyambabazi. I am a user of prosthetics. I am a rehabilitation expert. I am a medical doctor, and I work for Circleg as well. And I'm happy that we are having this conversation because it's something that is highly disregarded when we are doing fittings, when we are providing prosthetic care. So I'm very happy to be part of this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So to start us off, maybe I'll just start with you, Alex, because you are an amputee yourself. Why do you think proper prosthetic care is always overlooked? Like this is something that people don't know, that they need to take care of their prosthetic because it's part of their lives. So why do you think, when it comes to taking care of their prosthetic, this whole process is always overlooked?
I think this stems from the whole approach of prosthetic care as we talk about it. And that's, I think, one of the reasons to why at Circleg we decided that we needed to do what we call holistic prosthetic care. As I was saying, I think this stems from the general approach of prosthetic care. And as we say at Circleg, we approach this in a holistic way. Most of the times when these clients come to us, we are focusing on giving them prosthetic legs, but we don't really tell them the details of how they are going to feel when they use the prosthetic leg, how they should take care of their prosthetic legs. So I believe it's more often the lack of education to the users, and our center is not setting like the priority in regards to follow up of these patients, because for the prosthetists who are here, most of the times when you ask them how your patient is, I may not even know. And what I have seen is that the users, they what is broken, and they forget to go back to the centers most of the times, not because they want to, but because there is no transport, because they are not informed that this could be a minor issue to fix. So maintenance is kind of overlooked in various ways, but mostly because users are not educated on how to take care of themselves and their prosthetics.
Okay, that is really well put. And I don't know if Max or Emmanuel, if one of you can also chip in. Do you agree with the sentiments that Alex has mentioned, that why the main reason why people or amputees overlook, taking proper care of their prosthetic is maybe because they're not knowledgeable?
Yeah, I agree very much with Alex, actually, that the training or instruction how to use and also how to care about prosthetic system is that, yeah, it's not often done well. There is not enough time often also for that. And yeah, that leads definitely to cases where people don't care about it too much, but also something very individual. So I've seen many people who take very good care of their prosthetic systems. So I would not say it's a general problem. When it comes to maintenance, I see a bit of a logistics problem as well, because as Alex said, like people are often not really feeling that something is off, or if they feel, they don't act accordingly, and that's often because technicians are too far away, or there are not enough technicians who can take care of the problem properly. And because the distance is too big, people often hesitate to travel and to take care properly of their system when something broke.
Okay, great. So Emmanuel, maybe if you can chip in as as a prosthetist, would love to hear your insights on the same.
Agree with my fellow panelists, and I want to just share an experience that I have. I once had an amputee and I happened to visit them at their home, just to get a holistic view of their well-being. Because sometimes when we see these amputees in our facilities, we only see we see them from one dimension. So I visited this amputee, and when I told them to remove the prosthesis so that I can inspect it, I was surprised to see that it was infested with cockroaches and cobwebs, and it has this terrible smell. The skin was infected and untidy. And on the flip side, I've also seen amputees like Alex here who have sparkling, clean prosthetic systems. They clean them. They clean the prosthetic leg daily, and they proudly show it off to everyone. So the difference, when you look at these two scenarios, the difference is clear in terms of confidence and comfort. So I want to say that assume that once, as a prosthetist, I have fitted them with a prosthesis, that it doesn't require any special care. For me, I always make amputees to fully accept and understand that a prosthesis is part of their body. It is part of them, and it should not be neglected. And so, Maggie, to answer you, I think, to agree also with the other panelists, I think the problem here is simply lack of information and lack of training for the users. And for me as a prosthetist, I say that it is important that, especially with my colleagues, that we keep reminding the amputees that the prosthetic leg is part of their body, and explain to you that as you take a shower on a daily basis, remember that your prosthetic leg, your prosthetic system, which is part of your body, also needs to be taken care of, just the same way you are taking care of your body. Thank you, man.
I absolutely agree with you, because it's something people don't know. This is part of your body, and therefore you need to take care of it. I can just imagine the story you've just shared with us, how, let me say, traumatizing it was to be able to see an amputee who, does not take care of their prosthetic, and, to the point that it even smells. It makes other people uncomfortable. And I think this is the narrative that we need to change, and ensure that it's part of our bodies, and therefore we should take care of it. So back to you, Emmanuel. I just wanted to know what are some of the most essential daily hygiene practices that an amputee, can do to ensure that their prosthetic is well maintained? You are muted. We can't hear you, Emmanuel.
Sorry, I'm saying, Alex, it will be interesting to get the perspective of Alex, Dr. Alex, because he's a user. But for me, some of the essential daily hygiene practices that I recommend to all amputees: number one, they should wash the stump daily with soap and clean water. In the morning, as you take a shower, use a mirror to inspect your stump. Wash it daily with soap and water. Make sure it is dry enough before you fit. Before you put on the socket. Number two, wipe the inside of the socket daily, and if possible, you can use sanitizer or alcohol-free wipes, disinfectant wipes. Clean the socket daily, just to make sure that bacteria and other organisms don't find, and let the socket dry before you use it. So don't just clean it with a wet towel and put it on while it is still wet. If you are using socket liners, silicone liners, and all that, the socks that you wear before you put on your socket, the soft insert, clean it, dry, clean and dry all the socks and all that. Keep checking if there is any redness, if there is any pressure marks or any blisters, on your stump, and try also to just put your prosthetic leg in the open so that it has access to air and all that. And I have seen that some amputees have they have stock, they have enough stock for stocking, so they are able to program themselves just like socks. You know, when you wear socks, you don't repeat the socks, so it's the same thing. I see them washing the socks and then they dry it, the stockings rather, right? And you know, they keep exchanging so that you don't use the same stamp socks from the time you are given in the hospital until it wears out. So just like something like brushing your teeth, where we do it in form of a routine, also practicing some of these hygiene techniques should be a routine for any amputee, and prosthetists should ensure that they teach amputees some of these practices. Thank you so much.
This is so insightful. And Alex, because you are, you know, an amputee, maybe, I don't know if you resonate with every statement that Emmanuel has shared with us, in terms of cleaning, you know, your residual limb, in terms of ensuring that your socket is also clean, and also, you know, if you're using a silicone liner and stuff like that. Is this something that you practice or you do on a daily basis, or there are other things that you do to ensure that you maintain your prosthetic?
I think Emmanuel hit it right on the head. It's very crucial that we treat our prosthetic legs as part of our bodies, because I mean, even you who don't have the amputations, when you go to the shower, you wash the whole body. So I don't know why we have to separate prosthetic legs from our bodies. But I also understand that some other people, including myself, those days when I just started using prosthetics, I remember the finishing of my prosthetic leg was with this kind of a foam to make it shape like a leg. And it was covered with a lot of stock nets. And every time one of the stock nets would get torn, I would just add another one on top of it, and another one on top, and another one on top. Some other amputees I have seen don't even change the shoes. When he reaches home, he removes the leg with the shoe and puts it on the side. In the morning when they are dressing up, they just dress up the same way. And that is some of the things that make them to ignore their prosthetic legs, and we end up with things like Emmanuel is talking about, cockroach infestations. We end up with this offensive smell that hit the prosthetists when we go for repairs. So I think us as amputees who are working with other amputees, and also the prosthetists like who are here and who will get this message, it is very important to educate these people, because remember, they are getting into a completely new life. This is something new. This is something different. So if they don't have the information, they will not be able to create the information out of thin air. And also, when people get their prosthetics, their imagination is, I have got this, I have to be careful with it. So if you don't tell them that, look here, if you use water to wash this leg, nothing will happen, they will never know. They will keep it as it is. But one of the other things Emmanuel hinted on is being observant of your body, yourself, your skin. When you remove your leg, when you're going to shower, make sure that if you feel any irritation on your stump, you take care of that and try to interest yourself in finding out what is causing that. But otherwise, Emmanuel really mentioned everything when it comes to daily routine in relation to caring for our prosthetics and our stumps.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And it's really nice that we are emphasizing on why people should really take care of their prosthetics, especially for amputees. Now, Max, the next question I'm going to ask you is because of the emphasis that Emmanuel and Alex have mentioned in terms of cleanliness. So as an engineer, what do you think are the specific products or materials that amputees should avoid when they are cleaning or maintaining their prosthetics?
So, yeah, there is not really a general answer to that because it depends very, very much on the system you're using. So when cleaning your device, you always have to consider the guidelines. Work for one material or one system, but it's too aggressive for another one because it's not made for that. And yeah, that can differ a lot between the systems. For the Circleg, we recommend to use fresh water only because it's the easiest way, and from our experience, it also works perfectly fine. So it's not needed to use anything else than that. And it's also not required to do that every single day. But we definitely recommend doing it after exposure to dust or mud, and especially salt water, because that's especially aggressive.
Amazing, amazing. So back to you, Emmanuel. I just wanted to know what could be some of the common hygiene-related issues that amputees face, and how can they, prevent such hygiene-related issues? You're muted again. We can't hear you.
Very important question there, Maggie. And I think the second part of the question, we have already talked about it in terms of the hygiene practices that are recommended. But some of the hygiene-related issues that I've seen in my practice is amputees having skin irritations from unclean liners, unclean materials that they wear inside. The second hygiene-related issue I've observed is bad odor from sweat and from build-up of dirt. And some amputees have discharges, probably from unhealed wounds after amputation, or as a complication of a prosthetic fitting. So, and I don't know, they get used to that odor to the extent that they don't feel it. So when they show up in a clinic, when they remove the prosthesis, then you realize that there's very, very bad odor. I don't know whether any of my colleagues have experienced this. Then there are infections that can also arise because of trapped moisture. If the socket is made in such a way that there is no air circulation, and so moisture is trapped, and this can also cause infections. And we also have complications like sleeping or discomfort from use of wet. So I think these are some of the issues that I can mention that our panelists can also weigh in.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would also love to hear from Alex, if this is something that you've experienced, in the field, and maybe you can give us your insights on the same. Okay, I think we seem to have lost Alex, but I should be able to see him back shortly. But it's really nice to hear, things that amputees are meant to put in mind, and ensuring that, the next person you're seated next to does not feel uncomfortable. It's because you've taken care of your prosthetic. It's because you've, embraced who you are. It's part of your body, and you really want, to be a better person in society. And so my next question goes to Max. how do, amputees know when their prosthetic legs needs to be adjusted or fitted?
So yeah, as a general rule, I would recommend having the system checked as soon as you feel a difference. When something feels unusual, and if there is a movement you are not used to, something feels just not the way it felt in the beginning. So that's often a sign that something might be about to break or already broke. And that's definitely a sign that you need to check your system with a technician. But also we have to consider that not only the system itself might change over time, but it's also our bodies change. So yeah, it's also possible that changes in our activities or body weight might make a change necessary. So yeah, if you start a new activity and your system is not fitted for that or is not adequate for that, then that might require a change. Or if the body weight changes, so if you either lose weight or gain weight, then you will have problems with the socket. So it can be the system itself that might require a check, but also the fit to the socket or activities you want to perform with your system.
Amazing. So that means an amputee should be able to be checking their system, not necessarily on a daily basis, but more often to check for any, issues for them to be able to consult the same with their prosthetist. Now, back to Emmanuel. So how often should an amputee visit, a prosthetist for assessment or even for maintenance if they have an issue with their prosthetic leg?
Yeah, so before I answer that, just to add on what Max has said, some of the signs that the prosthesis is causing challenges to the amputee, and I think we have emphasized the need for the amputee to keep on inspecting their prosthesis and also inspecting the stump. So if you notice that you are developing black spots, blisters, or persistent redness on your stump, that's a red sign. If you notice that there is a bit of swelling, you're experiencing back pain that has not been there, or pain at the stump, then that's also a red flag. Or as a prosthetist, when you're assessing your amputee, they tell you that they have reduced the wearing time of the prosthesis because of pain while they are walking, that's also something that needs attention. Or if the skin breaks, if there are open wounds, if there's burning sensation or itching inside the socket. So basically, if as an amputee, if your leg hurts more than it helps, if the prosthesis hurts you more than it is helping you, then something is wrong. And sometimes it's an issue that is preventable either with proper hygiene or some minor adjustment and alignments that the prosthesis will need to do. So in terms of how often an amputee should visit a prosthetist, well, there are no standards, but ideally it should be between 3 to 6 months after fitting. And it also depends at what level the amputee is. If it is a primary amputee, of course, they may need very close follow-up from their prosthetist. If it is a secondary amputee who has used the prosthesis for some time, then the follow-up period is a bit longer. So so I've said it's between 3 to 6 months, but if there are major changes in terms of the size of the limb, in terms of the amputee feeling that there's discomfort, if there are damage to the components, the amputee should visit a prosthetist immediately. They don't have to wait for their next appointment.
Exactly, yeah. Because you can't be in pain and expect to wait until, the 6 months for you to be able to be assisted. And I like the red flags that you've mentioned when it comes to, changes in an amputee's residual limb, and when to, visit a prosthetist for assessment or even just for maintenance. And my question goes to Dr. Alex. I just wanted to know, can swelling, because it's one of the red flags that Emmanuel has just mentioned, do you think that swelling or someone gaining weight changes or it affects the fitting of their prosthetics? And if so, how should we or how should someone manage this?
Yeah, most definitely. Swelling of the prosthetic, leg, weight gain, all this affects the user. And usually how you identify it is you start putting on your leg and it is not really fitting, even your complicated. So usually what you do, you either, like the people who use stockings, you could reduce on the price of stockings you use when it has swollen. But the ultimate solution to this, if the swelling is persistent, this is common in diabetic patients. Sometimes, and patients with high blood pressure, I've noticed, and some of the elderly patients, some of them will, they will, like when they spend time without putting on the leg, when they try putting it on again, most of the times it will not fit. So there are a few things you can do. You can either use or bandage your leg overnight, and in the morning you just put on your leg. And if that doesn't work, you can, if you have been using stump stockings, you can reduce on the price you have been using. And if that doesn't work, then you have to go back to your prosthetist to change the socket. Most of the times, the ultimate issue is to change the socket. The only challenge is that it makes your life expensive, because it's easier for the stump to reduce than the stump to increase in weight. So you have to first try the other solutions. If you're using stump stockings, reduce on the plies, or use compression socks, or bandage your leg every night to see that it gets back to the size you want.
Great. This is really insightful. Maybe just before I ask Emmanuel and Max, I just have another question for you, Alex. Have you ever, at any given point after acquiring your prosthetic, ever had, failure or injury due to lack of proper care or poor fit of your prosthetic?
Yes. Good enough, I didn't get hurt. This was a prosthetic that was made for me, but my prosthetist at the time was, I think we didn't have a good relationship. So when I pushed on where I was feeling pain and all that, the prosthetist didn't listen to me. And after giving me the prosthetic leg and saying it was ready, I tried it in the center and I couldn't use it. I actually left it there. The other issue that has happened to me, because I was not really focusing on the maintenance of my leg, was when I had a leg that I had covered with these stockings to like I had covered it, so I didn't know that it had created some weak spot. And one time I was just walking, crossing the road, I stepped like this and it snapped. So I think it's like Max mentioned, it's very important for you to also be observant and listen to your prosthetic leg. If it has not been making any noise, when it starts making noise, put it off, investigate, or listen keenly and investigate and ask yourself, this wasn't there before. Where is it coming from? And if it is something like just a loose screw that you can fix, you can do it on your own, which is something I still feel like as amputees, we need to also be empowered to be able to identify such small problems that that are not supposed to force us back to go to the centers. If your leg has been walking all right, and then you start walking and it is shaking, surely as a user, you should ask yourself, why is this happening? Find out where it is to ensure that you prevent all this. And surely all of these things have happened to me, but they have also happened to very many other people. Like I told you, when you are in communities, you meet people who have developed other complications related to the prosthetic use, simply because they got comfortable with a broken prosthetic, the prosthetic leg is short, or the prosthetic leg, like we are saying, the residue limb has reduced. Now they fit all the way in, and still it is uncomfortable. So it's important that it goes back to education and making sure that the users understand what is going on, and we guide them on how to identify the issues that could cause them further complications.
I absolutely agree with you. And now my next question goes to Max, in relation to what, Alex has just talked about, and Emmanuel also mentioned it at a given time. What's the average lifespan of a prosthetic leg with good care? And how can amputees, increase durability and longevity to ensure that their prosthetic legs, last them a given time of period?
Also there, it's very difficult to mention a specific number because prosthetic systems are so different. And yeah, for example, for devices with very, very poor quality, the lifetime is often a few months only, unfortunately. While for a very, very advanced system, the expected lifetime is 5, even more years. And I would say the truth is somewhere in between for most systems. And it depends a lot on how the system is being used. So, for example, the activity level, the kind of activities you perform with it, but also the environmental conditions like the temperature and humidity and so on play an important role. So if you want to make sure that your system lasts as long as possible, it's again very important to respect the indications of the device. So for example, if you're using a foot which is explicitly not made for running and you still use it to run with, then the lifetime will be reduced drastically. And it's important to inspect it regularly, as Alex said afterwards. Learn about the system. When you're an experienced user, you somehow feel or also hear when something is off, and the sooner you detect that something is off, the higher the likelihood is that it can be repaired. And maybe as a last point, which is not so easy for many people, is again the point of keeping it away from salt water, because that's really, really aggressive and causes or it reduces the lifetime of the system.
Wow, this is really, really nice. And it's good that we get to share this kind of information for amputees to know what to do when they go through such experiences. So if you're an amputee and you're one of the participants who've joined us in this meeting and you have a question and maybe you are shy to speak in the mic when I'll be giving people an opportunity to do that, you can just write us a message in the chat. Say any question in related to today's topic, and then our guest will be able to answer that any other questions that you guys will have. And Max, I just have another question in relation to what you've said. If you could kindly just explain to us, what are some of the innovations or technologies that are improving, prosthetic maintenance or care in today's world?
So I think in terms of innovation, I would talk about training. It's this education which is often not done so well, or not enough. And I think there we have a lot of room to improve that, like find better way better ways how we can how an amputee can learn from others, how he has to handle his his product. In terms of technologies, I see the potential of 3D printing, even though not so. For example, we don't use it in our system for cost reasons, but when we talk about sockets, I see that this technology might have a lot of potential to make it easier to produce or adjust sockets and make it cheaper and more affordable, and therefore allow the user a better experience, as this is the part which needs to be replaced most often.
Okay, great. I'll give this opportunity to anyone who has a question for our panelist or our guest. You can either raise your hand or just unmute yourself and ask any questions or question that you have. Anyone who has a question about today's topic, and maybe there's a point or something that they missed out and they would need clarification, this is the time to ask the questions before I ask our guests to give us, their last message.
My name is Enoch. I'm not an amputee, but I have a daughter.
Okay.
Who is yet to be fixed with the amputee leg. So first, to appreciate the presenters for the thought presentation. We have indeed gained insights on how to take care of the prosthetic, and the insight that it can have a long lifespan, and how to take care about it so that it maintains its shape, so that it doesn't cause unnecessary atmosphere in an environment where people are. So I think the presentation was insightful, and we urge that these small presentations are encouraged so that those who don't have information can get to access the information, and also be part of the people who educate others who have known this information, for the amputees also to be accepted and they feel part of society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Enoch. We really appreciate even you taking the time to join in the session. And change begins with us. We are really grateful, and we hope you'll also be able to share, what you've learned today. And we will also be able to share the same with the rest of the other people who've not been able to join this particular webinar. But we have so many others coming up. We will be having different topics that we'll be discussing. And we hope, to touch every other person. But thank you so much, Enoch. I don't know if there's any other person who has something to say or a question. There seems to be no other person who has a question or any comment. And so I will go back to you, Max. Maybe you can give us your final words on the same, but I'll also want to know, what's one product or tool you can't live without when it comes to prosthetic care? You're not an amputee, but you're an engineer. So I'd love to know, what's that one product? You are muted.
Can you repeat the question?
So I'm asking, you are an engineer, and so you are in the backside of, creating prosthetics, components and stuff like that. And I'm asking, what's that one product or tool that you use on a daily basis as you do your work that you can't live without when it comes to prosthetic care?
So I think my colleague Emmanuel would definitely agree. So that's the hex screwdriver, which is the one tool you need to assemble and disassemble the prosthetic components. That's without that, it's very difficult, definitely.
Yeah. Any last message that you have for us?
Yeah, thanks a lot for bringing us together and having this session about this very important topic, because it's something which not a lot of material or information is around, and it's the feeling that most users have to somehow inform themselves or learn from their own experience. And so thanks a lot for creating the space.
Thank you too for your time. You are appreciated. Emmanuel, what's that one tool that you can't, live without as a prosthetist when it comes to prosthetic care, and also your maybe last encouragement, word of encouragement, or something for us?
Thank you so much, Maggie. So it's a very difficult question to ask a prosthetist, because our working environment is full of machines, equipment, and many tools, and all tools are important. But for sure, if you check in my bag, wherever you find me, I'll always have an Allen key, size 4, which is normally very useful when it comes to tightening, for safe component checks. I always have that. And I always have my laser alignment lights, the portable one. I find it essential, especially when it comes to alignment. So those two you'll always find in my bag, but there are many tools. But I know Alex talked about amputees also being able to troubleshoot and yes. But I want to advise that amputees should try as much as possible, whenever you experience a challenge, to visit your prosthetist. You should never attempt to change the alignment of your prosthetic system unless you are guided. So leave all the technical checks to professionals, but you can troubleshoot and handle some minor issues. The major thing is, on a daily basis, clean your prosthesis, inspect it, check it, and report anything that is unusual. So my parting shot is to my colleagues, prosthetists, or orthopedic technologists who are in the call. I just wanted to advise, or rather recommend, that it is important that when we are fitting amputees with different technologies, at least make sure that you know about the technology that you are fitting, know its qualities, know what materials it is made of, know its durability, so that you are able to educate your amputees, especially on what is likely to go wrong, so that they are able to, to prepare for anything. Do not, and for amputees, I want to say that do not allow yourself to be fitted to components or to a technology that you don't know. Ask questions, ask what is likely to go wrong, so that you are prepared, especially to avoid injuries like falls and all that that Alex was talking about. Your prosthesis is not just a tool. It is part of your body. It is part of your journey. It is part of your life. And so you just need to take care of it. You need to clean it. You need to respect it, and it will be able to serve you well. I want to close with a quote by a famous writer. Is called Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn, this quote says, "Take care of your body. It is the only place you have to live. Take care of you have to live." Thank you so much.
Can you just kindly repeat the quote again?
So the quote is by Jim Rohn, a renowned writer. and it says, take care of your body. It is the only place where you live.
Wow. Wow.
It is the only place you have to live.
Exactly.
Take care of your body. It is the only place you have to live.
Thank you so
And
much.
by
Yes.
body, we mean your body and your assistive device. It is part of your body. It is part of your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. That was so insightful. And we will remember that quote to ensure that we continue taking care of our bodies because we live in it. And Dr. Alex, you are a doctor, you're an amputee yourself. I don't know if you have any specific, tool that you can't live without. Maybe if you have, you can also share the same and just give us your, takeaways or your last words for this particular session.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of them is the Allen key. Yes, I agree with Emmanuel that we shouldn't attempt to make alignments or fix really technical issues. But I've had experiences where my leg loosens and I have to do it because I'm just by myself. I can't rush to a center, and yet I need to use my prosthetic leg. So my Allen key is always with me. Then as an amputee as well, my donning sheath, for especially the amputees who use above the knee prosthetics and whose sockets are like total body contact, my donning sheath is always in the bag because sometimes you wake up and you put on your prosthetic leg and then along the way you realize that you didn't do it right and there is need for you to change. So if you don't carry the things you need to use, most of the times you're going to force yourself to stay with a prosthetic you have not donned very well, and then it will cause you problems. The other thing I really can't do without is a soft brush for washing my prosthetic leg because it always needs clean. After a long day of walking on the leg, there is this sweating, the skin peels, the dead skin from the dead cells from the skin will peel off, mixed with sweat, mixed with bacteria, mixed with a lot of issues. If you don't clean your leg, if you don't clean your prosthetic, then you're creating a habitat for bacteria and fungi, and eventually it affects your leg, and eventually you're unable to use the leg. So I cannot do without my soft brush for scrubbing my prosthetic leg. The other thing I use often is olive oil or sometimes black seed oil. I have seen people who say every time I put on my leg, I get blisters and I get wounds. And I was like that at some point. But applying just a thin layer of olive oil or black seed oil has been super, super, super helpful. So I always have some. And when I feel like my leg is being irritated, irrespective of how clean my prosthetic leg is, I just wake up, put a thin layer of either of the oils, and it is very helpful. And I believe it could help other people as well. My parting shots go first to the prosthetists. Please take time. It's just a few words. Tell your user, the person, your client, explain to them what they should do after getting their leg. Because today I met as in a workshop with amputees somewhere, and I met an amputee who saw me standing and pressing my valve, my vacuum valve to realign my leg, and was like, that is its function. And I was surprised. This guy has used his leg for the last almost 6 months, but he was like, for me, when I sit and air enters and the leg is getting off, I have to go find a bathroom and put on my leg afresh. he didn't know that that valve is to expel air and your leg holds you again. So prosthetists, like, we need to educate these people about their systems, because some of them will not even know the right questions to ask. And for my fellow amputees, learn how to take care of yourself. Like Emmanuel has quoted, you take care of your body because it is the only place you have to live. If you don't have the leg, then you're not going to be able to walk if your prosthetic leg is not usable. If your residual limb has wounds and it has been injured, then you will not be able to use your prosthetic. And that hinders your day-to-day living. That hinders your day-to-day activities. So it's very important that amputees as well take in and take care of their legs, in terms of hygiene, in terms of being observant, and always inspecting that to ensure that nothing goes wrong. And when something happens, when you feel like there's an indifference between how your leg was and how it is now, please go to a prosthetist. Don't stay with that leg, because eventually it is going to cause more complications that you don't want to deal with at the end of the day. For that, thank you so much for having me and for joining us for this webinar. For you, Maggie, thank you for organizing this. And like the parent said earlier, I believe these webinars are very important. And this information is not out there, like also Max mentioned. It's not out there. And it is up to us as stakeholders in rehabilitation to ensure that we put it out there. We educate the masses so that everyone understands how crucial this is. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't even want to dilute what the three of you have shared with us, your parting shots, and also the knowledge that you've shared with us since the beginning of the webinar to now. And I hope whoever is listening, you've been able to learn, whether you're an amputee, you're a caregiver, or you're just here to learn, from the professionals. Please understand that you need to take care of your prosthetic in terms of your hygiene, adjustment, and how it can last you for a longer time. It's been nice. It's been lovely. Thank you again, once again, Max. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Alex. And I guess we'll see each other on the next webinar session. And to all our participants, asanteni sana. Thank you so much. And from me, I wish you all the best in whatever you're doing, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.